Please be advised that the following presentation does not convey financial, trading, or any other advice. This video is for informational purposes only.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Dimitri's Desk, where we talk about price action that has been happening in crypto markets, where we are now, and where we might be heading. As always, we're going to start off with IOST USD. As you can see, we're still within the range that we've been talking about for the last 3 episodes. We did have an attempt to break out of that range just recently. As a matter of fact, when I was doing this episode last time, we were actually at the top of the range. We did measure the range as about 40% from bottom to top. We did make an attempt to break that 1.5, but the range still holds. So we're still moving lower within that price action between the 1.4, 1.5 and a penny. As you can see by the indicator that I've introduced on our last episode, which is called on balance volume, is still trending higher. So that's usually a good sign. What it does, for those that don't know, it calculates the volume on down days, so when we have these red candles, and then it calculates the volume on up days, and then combines that to essentially give you a perspective on what's going on with the volume visually in a line format. So we're seeing that the buying pressure is picking up for IOST. Ideally, what this indicator should do is signal possibility to break out of range. So something that we have here. Now, obviously you don't want to front run that. We need to see commitment from price action, but we are moving lower to the bottom of that range. So we did have an attempt, like I said, to break out of that range, but we did not get essentially a close, daily close above 1.5. Typically, what happens when you break out of a range, price action will pump above that price and then retest it again to confirm that it is in fact support, and then from there we break essentially higher. Let's jump into BTC USD. Interesting development here. Obviously, we did go higher very quickly, almost to 14K. As we discussed last time, BTC really gained quite a bit of volatility. We were up 20% in just a week. Now we have actually came down all the way to test that 10K level that I was talking about. We actually overshot a little bit on the downside, which is something typical when you see price approaching support. It is possible that it might actually overshoot a little bit on the downside. There might be a lot of stop loss orders in place right below the 10K, which essentially, when you're holding a buy position and you have a stop loss, once the stop loss gets triggered, you initiate a sell order. So if you have a lot of orders that are set up right below 10K, and the price dips a little bit below 10K, it triggers that selling pressure, which causes this overshoot in price. So we did get that. Right now, we're above 10K, 10.7. We'll see how this daily close is going to happen. In terms of OBV, we're still looking strong. We're still essentially on an uptrend for on balance volume. The moving averages look good. We're at 382 Fibonacci retracement right now, essentially testing that support of 10K. The next one is going to be 0.5 that I mentioned, which is around 12.3K. So we'll see how BTC is going to perform against USD right now. Not much to worry about. We're still within the same trend. We just had a little bit of a pullback, which is essentially pretty good. Now moving on to ETH USD. Interesting development here. Last time we discussed the fact that ETH was in a range that I spotted, and then we broke out of it. Then we tested it, and it looks like we're testing it again. That breakout out of the range between the 224 and about like 288. I mentioned last time that I was looking at on balance volume, and I was not convinced because the on balance volume was not popping off like the price was. Now we're actually seeing a little bit of a movement in OBV, where essentially it should be confirming that we are in fact breaking out of this and continuing the trend of ETH going higher against USD. but we need to see more conviction here. We'll see. We need to see how this daily close is going to happen on ETH. Are we in fact going to hold this? There's a 50-day moving average in play here as well. So I'll be watching OBV again very closely for ETH/USD. ADX, I just threw that in here just so you can see it's our range indicator. If it's below 20 or a little bit above that, not a big deal. All right. And the last one, before we wrap this up, we have EOS USD. Also interesting development here. We dipped below the 50-day moving average as the price moved lower. And we have on balance volume that's actually within a range, which is interesting because if you have on balance volume within a range, then the buying and selling pressure on a daily basis is technically ranging. ADX is actually confirming that we are below the 20 mark, which signifies a range. So it'll be interesting to see how we're going to hold this level right here that I have outlined, which is 585. We tested $5 a couple times already, or we're getting close to it. I would be looking for OBV to start picking up and breaking out of this range that I have outlined here, as well as having the price action getting back above the 50-day moving average. Because as long as we're below the 50-day moving average, it might signal still downward pressure. And then, of course, ADX has to pop above 20 to signify that the fact that we're not in range, we are making moves up or down. BTC dominance has been performing outrageously good. As you can see on our favorite chart that we always talk about is BTC dominance. We've reached all the way up to 63%. And as you can see, everything else was dropping. So again, like I mentioned last time, be very careful when you trade alts against BTC because of the BTC dominance. It is still in play. We've dropped down a little bit since the peak at 63% to 61%, but essentially we're still on that trend until we see the rotation. Trading alts against BTC might be dangerous. And as I mentioned, before as well, the rotation is going to happen when volatility in BTC is going to slow down. Right now, a lot of traders don't see a real need essentially to chase volatility outside of BTC. So what they're doing right now is they might be stacking up on BTC in anticipation that once BTC slows down in terms of volatility, it's going to stop yielding essentially the percentages that we've been seeing lately. Then the traders will rotate into alts to continue to chase that yield elsewhere. But until that day, we're still essentially looking for more dominance in BTC and alts struggling against BTC. All right, guys, that's it for today. Please leave comments, any feedback, any coins that you'd like me to chart next time are more than welcome. And I'll catch you guys next week. Happy trading.